Hi, this is Rick Blake. I'm doing a summary for the work session and the regular council meeting for Monday, October 28th, 2019. At the work session, there were two items on the agenda. The first one was a discussion of the capital improvement program for streets for 2019 that's now been delayed in till 2020. That has the major street that's involved with that is 2nd Street Northeast, and a couple of the avenues that go east and west, I think at 7th and 9th. So, and then there were a couple alleys on that original proposal that were done this year. The project had to be scaled back, however, and if you go on the Public Works website, you can look at some of the things that have been delayed, but that's the limit of that project. We're going to release requests for bid very shortly, so that the work wouldn't be done until 2020, starting this spring. Then Beth George, or no, that was the second item on the work session was Tim Schirkenbach came in to talk about climate vulnerability and an assessment and an adaptation framework. There were also members from Earth Circle in the audience. He's worked with on this project with some I think Flagstaff, Arizona as well. It's interesting to note that Grand Rapids and Hibbing, those two small areas, have experienced one of the highest changes in temperature in the United States. And so what we're looking for is an assessment and how to adapt to the climate change that's actually already occurring. Our forests have changed, and actually the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency too is on board with this, and they've hired a consultant to do one, and there's actually 3 in northeastern Minnesota. 3 assessments have already occurred, one in Chisholm, one in Mountain Iron, and one in Rainier. So we'll be using those as a template, and Tim and the Earth Circle group will work with city staff, and we'll look at doing an assessment, and at some point in the future come back, and if there's no money is going to be spent on this project right now, but in the future they'll come back, and if there's anything that needs to be done there. So I'm sure there will be. It's obviously something has happened and is happening. Our forests have already changed. Then at the regular meeting, first at the public forum, well, first of all, there was a National Homelessness and Hunger Awareness Proclamation issued. November is going to be National Homeless and Hunger Month, and then 1 week is going to be targeted at a special week, recognizing the efforts that Grand Rapids has put forth to address homelessness and hunger. Beth George then came in to recruit people to attend a few meetings that ICTV is having. They're looking to move into the next phase. There's going to be there are actually 3 meetings on November 12th at 12:30 in the council chambers is one. There's going to be one that evening at the YMCA, and then the next day in the morning at 8:30 at the YMCA. And I would encourage people from the Grand Rapids community, whether you watch ICTV or not, to show up. And ICTV has hired a nationally known consultant to run these meetings, and I'm thinking they're looking for good feedback from the Grand Rapids community, and I would appreciate everybody who's interested to show up. Then on the regular agenda, there was one item that took up quite a bit of time, and that's Walmart's going to change the colors on their store. But that's about it as far as that goes. The second interesting item that was on the agenda had to do with the land exchange with the Blandin Foundation in Grand Rapids. It all started back when the school was going to be built over the Elkington School, the elementary school being built next to that. In order to do that, they had to buy some parkland that was originally donated by the National Park Service. And one of the conditions on that land was if it was ever sold, we had to replace it with another piece of parkland of equal value, or for all practical purposes, equal value. And so what the city did was, there's some land on the south side of the river, on the west side of the street, that probably most people in Grand Rapids think is already city property, but it's not. It belongs to the Blandon Foundation. That was appraised, and it turned out that that property would work. I think it was appraised at something like $96,000, and the property over by the school was appraised at something like $92,000. So they're pretty equal. And then as part of that, the Blandon Foundation also wanted to buy a piece of city property that's kind of wedged in between some properties they have where the foundation is located on the north side of the river and the west side of, well, east side of 169. And so the property that's on the south side of the river and the east side of 169, that's going to be sold to the city of Grand Rapids. And the Blandon Foundation has also given a grant to do some improvements to that property so the city won't have to do it. And I think the grant was $142,000. Then there was an easement that Blandon wanted for some land that's between the library and the foundation that they needed to use. So that easement was granted. Another small piece of city property was sold to the Blandon Foundation that's just right next to the foundation properties. So all that being said, it started with the school being built, and now Grand Rapids has a nice park on the southeast of the 169 and the river. It's a beautiful park, and it really worked out. It was good cooperation between the Blandon Foundation, who we should thank for the grant, the school district, and the city of Grand Rapids. And then that was about, well, there were some, in the city Public Works Director did a report too, a Public Works report, and in his report, he talked about GIS upgrade, and that's something that's more and more being relied upon by cities and public works. It's a geographic and information system is what that stands for. But for example, on the website, if there's a street light out, you can go on that website and you can report that street light, and the public works will go out and repair it. He talked about working with public utilities, working with the city public works as far as Lake Country Power. Some customers, we had an acquisition of some of Lake Country's territory, so those customers were transferred to public utilities. He talked about the pedestrian bridge, which is done, and it's a beautiful bridge. He talked about some of the art work that Public Works has helped with, and one of those pieces of art is right next to that bridge. It's a canoe that's being built down, and it's beautiful. Then he talked about the runway construction, and then a little bit about Public Works reorganization, that Jeff Davies retired, so Kevin Ketz has been, he is the new Public Works Superintendent. That's really the major change there, with Matt being the Public Works Director. And that's, I think, one more thing, November 1st, that's when the winter parking ordinance goes into effect. So the city will do everything they can to let you know when they're going to be plowing. But as Matt said, if you have to shovel your driveway, assume they're going to plow. But we do a good job of letting people know when the plows are going to be out, and then so your cars have to be off the street. Thank you.